Hi, everybody. Welcome back on into Bufnagle, the podcast. I'm Zach. As always, I'm joined by Rafe. Rafe, how you doing?
Zach, I am great. Thanks for joining me this evening. To all our Bufnagle friends out there, thank you for listening in to Bufnagle, the podcast. This is episode 4. For those of you who like to follow us or get in touch with us, keep in mind we're available on Twitter. The handle is @Bufnagle. You can send us email, bufnagle@bufnagle.com or legal@bufnagle.com in case you have to tell us something that we did illegally. And then this is the Bufnagle podcast. So we watched some hockey last night, Zach. You up there in Minnesota, Harry down there in North Carolina, and I was here outside of Nashville. And we saw we're recording this Sunday night. So we saw the Dallas Stars win a double overtime game 5 to make the series 3-2. So Tampa Bay is now leading the Stanley Cup Finals 3-2, and we saw Dallas get what I thought was a rather improbable win. Certainly, because I only joined the broadcast toward the end of the game. Zach, I saw, and this is what I need to ask you because you are more of a hockey aficionado than I am.
I'm the expert.
You are the expert because you play one on TV. We saw. From my perspective, I saw Dallas having what I'll call it was an excruciatingly difficult time getting the puck through the neutral zone into the Tampa Bay defensive zone or the Dallas offensive zone. And that was borne out, at least in the first overtime. I think at one point the shots on goal were 6-0 Tampa Bay over Dallas. So what is it about either how Dallas is configured or Tampa Bay is configured or the way they were playing that game that made it so difficult for Dallas to get the puck into their own offensive end?
Those are good questions, Rafe. Thank you for having your brain function.
Hey, thanks for the affirmation, Zach. Now I feel like a whole person.
So you didn't watch the first half of that game, which Tampa struggled a little bit more in that neutral zone, and Dallas was able to kind of slice and dice their way through. That allowed them to actually have 2 really good opportunities in the first period. One of them resulted in a goal. The other one was a shot off the post.
Wait. So make sure I got this right. So Dallas was more successful early in the game. They had some really great opportunities in the first period, but you said they were slicing and dicing their way through. What do you mean by that?
So Dallas is uniquely positioned, especially in the modern NHL, to have 2 or 3, depending on who you ask, very high quality, athletic, mobile defensemen. They have 2 specifically that I'm going to mention in John Klingberg and then Mira Heiskanen. I'm personally the founder of the Mira Heiskanen fan club. If you would like to know more about that, ask Harry, because I haven't shut up about him since his draft day, which was 2018. But beyond the point with that both of those players are extremely mobile. They're great stick handlers. They have good vision. And with that ability allows them to create chances through the neutral zone. If they're in the defensive zone, they're skating up, they're coming with speed. But Tampa Bay defenders have to respect that speed and that skill. And sometimes they give them a little bit more space or they try to attack. And in those holes that exist, Dallas players can come in, they can get the puck in the neutral zone, and then they can quickly enter the zone and get opportunities.
So early in the game, these Dallas defensemen were able to use their great stick, their puck handling, their stick work, and just their athleticism to bring that puck to bring it up through there. So Dallas is putting their normally defensemen, they're the guys that hang back and swirl around in the defensive zone, and it's the forwards that bring it through or pass to each other, right?
Yeah, for the most part. I think also in today's NHL, the term defenseman should be replaced with backs because they're at the back of the play, and forwards are at the front of the play, so they're called forwards. That's a point for another time that I'm not going to get into.
I hear you. I hear you.
But
So Dallas has these great defensemen, but something has to have changed then between the first half of the game and what I saw in overtime, which was just suffocating defense in the neutral zone by Tampa Bay.
you did see that. So that first half of that game, Tampa was a little slower to attack the Dallas defensemen. So the Dallas defensemen had a little bit more time. They had a little more stuff to work with. And with that ability, that time, they were able to find those holes and get through. Later in the game, that space and that time became non-existent.
So let me say I got that right. So I'm a defenseman, and I'm scooting around for whatever reason. There's a shift change or something like that. I got the puck. We're in the defensive zone, and we're bringing the puck out into the neutral zone. So you're saying early in the game, I as a defenseman would be able to get the puck up to my defensive blue line or into the neutral zone before I transition it from me to the forwards. And so they weren't picking me up early. And later in the game, did they move where they started to engage the defense, or what did they do?
Tampa Bay more or less was able to get to the Dallas defenders earlier and take away those opportunities. So before
they would just do it sooner in the almost like
it would be on top. Like Dallas defender would get the puck, he would have a guy on top of him. He couldn't make a clean breakout. He couldn't start moving forward to be able to open up that pass.
So now is that just a risk that Tampa decides like this is how we're going to do it? We're going to stretch our defense instead of piling them up in the neutral zone. We're going to come after them a little bit more.
So Tampa has the benefit of having very mobile players throughout their lineup. So they're able to pretty much attack downhill at these defensemen, at these guys in the neutral zone, and create this clogging mechanism that you saw last night. It's more of a group effort of, okay, we're going to make their life difficult, and if they get by us, they're going to get a good chance, but they're not going to have, hopefully not going to have sustained pressure. And eventually, end of the second period, that pressure by Tampa increased. Dallas was not really able to make advantage of it, and then they kind of picked up, and the momentum.
So is that just a gut check kind of thing that you eventually you have to commit to that sooner? Is that what they did? Is it was there a change in strategy or just a change of intensity?
It was a change in intensity. You could see from that, if you watched highlights in the first period of similar breakout plays to the third period or even second overtime, you could see Tampa Bay had a little bit more of a jump at their step. They were attacking. They were finally being successful at what they were trying to do all night.
So early on in the game, then Dallas was able to, for lack of a better term, evade the onslaught of the stretched Tampa Bay defense.
Yep.
Right. So all right. So I joined the game. It's 4-4. It's late in the third period. They go to overtime. We get 18 minutes of a nap, and then we go to the first overtime. And the first overtime, it was played the whole time in the Dallas defensive zone, in the Tampa Bay offensive zone. They had 6 shots, good goaltending, just generally good defense in the defensive zone by Dallas, but they're not able. Tampa Bay is not able to convert. What allowed Dallas to get the goal that they got in the second overtime, even though the strategy seemed to be the same? Tampa was coming after them. Right?
Yep.
What changed in the second? What changed in the second overtime to get that goal?
So both teams all night were able to get to the front of the net, which is a higher quality shot than from not in front of the net, because if you're closer, it's easier to score. That's basic math. Beyond that, Dallas had one really good opportunity early in the second overtime, and then they had another really good opportunity when they scored. And both of those opportunities came from getting the puck to the net, causing a little bit of chaos, and having guys in position to take advantage of that chaos and score.
So they're able to get it in front. Is that just a consequence of you have to keep going to the well, you have to keep trying, and eventually some things break through? Hockey's like that, right? I mean, you work to control the puck. You control the puck, you got to get it out of the zone. You got to get it out of the zone. You got to get it right. You got to get it across. So, it was just a game of attrition there, and constantly playing playing the odds. And that was a great finish, and it was overtime hockey in the Stanley Cup Finals is that is excruciating as it gets, and it's hard to go to sleep after that sort of thing. So we got another game. We got Game 6 coming up Monday's
the 28th. So by the time this gets out, probably this information is late news. So Tampa could win Game 6, or Dallas could force Game 7.
Okay, so
Wednesday.
So give me your hockey expert opinion, thoughts on. They ask the guys on the show who's going to win, and they all say, "Well, I'm not going to tell you who's going to win, but my guy to watch is whatever." So what do you think? What do you think? Give me a guy on each team to keep your eye on in Game 6.
Braden Point's been the man for Tampa. He's kind of carried them, especially in the Eastern Conference Final, to get to this point. Mira Heiskanen, I mentioned her earlier for Dallas. If he can get going offensively, Dallas could really start scoring a lot and start steamrolling there. Jamie Benn and Tyler Seguin also, they need to find a way to find the back of the net. If they can do that, that's going to open up the Dallas offense. But I think Dallas has the advantage defensively. Tampa has the better offense. If Dallas's elite players can play like elite players, I think it's Dallas's series. So
Dallas has defense and Tampa has offense. That's kind of like the unstoppable force meeting the immovable object, right?
Yes, something along those lines.
Yeah. All right, so we'll see what happens Monday night, and by the time this drops on either Monday night or Tuesday, then we'll. This may be old news, but it'll be interesting to see how we do. That brings me a little bit to this idea of the death of TV. We have discussed this a number of times on calls. TV viewership for sports is down. Some people say that's mostly politics. We can go into that, but we're not going to. There are other things that sit around TV and entertainment in general. I'll just start this a little bit. That there's we went back. My wife and I, your mother, right, Zach? You remember her? We'll watch rerun TV on some of these wacky little local stations, and we've been watching a lot of Frasier. And if you remember, Frasier was a show from the early 90s and on. Then it's in syndication now, and there's a lot of shows out there. It's a great show. If you've ever watched it, it's a phenomenal show. And the thing that makes it great is the writing. And I don't know if you remember this, Zach. I think you were probably a pretty little kid. Well, you were a pretty kid and you were a little kid. So you were a pretty little kid. The Hollywood writers, the sitcom writers, went on strike I think it was the mid 90s, might have been early 2000s. I forget when it was. But what happened is TV was left with nothing to record. So they went to reality TV. Survivor and Big Brother and all these other things made their way into
the Kardashians.
All these things came into being, and it's interesting now because a lot of people see that as TV, and I see it as it's called reality TV, but I see it as complete fiction TV because you take real people and put them in false situations and watch what happens. But what I see is the real death of great comedic writing. And if you want to watch some great comedic writing, the Frasier reruns are as good as they get. The banter is incredible. The writing, just the intellectual level of the show is off the charts. And that's a great thing to see. So that's from an purely entertainment side. But you were mentioning earlier, Zach, that you think there's some negatives about what we're seeing in sports, but there's also a bright light that you're seeing.
Yeah, so I am of the odd belief that football is not a very good game on television.
All right.
My main reason for that is the broadcast itself does not do a good enough job of showing you the whole play. The best example I can think of this is back when Jordy Nelson played for the Green Bay Packers. Him and Aaron Rodgers would routinely, at least once a week, if not more, connect on about a 70-yard play action double move play over the middle. I have seen this play live 3 times. One of them, my favorite moment, is I saw the play happening and I stood up and said touchdown before Aaron Rodgers even threw the ball. Everyone in the stadium looked at me funny.
Well, you can see the whole play, right?
Yeah, because I can see the whole play at the stadium. Back to the NFL broadcast. I saw a similar Jordy Nelson to Aaron Rodgers double move play action play. It's now different because Jordy Nelson's not there. I think Devontae Adams was running it, but I wanted to be like, where's Devontae? Where is he in relation to the safety? Or is Aaron going to have to check down to somebody else? And I couldn't see that on the broadcast. And from a viewer perspective, for me, it negated any of the joy that I would have got. If Aaron Rodgers threw a deep ball, I knew it was a touchdown because I knew what that play is. If he checked it down, I knew the safety was covering him. But I didn't have the opportunity to personally see that. And for me, it took away the joy of watching the game. And among other things about football, I have enjoyed it less and less watching it on television.
Yeah. So, I've seen that too. When I would film the games, and we talked about this last week, when I filmed the game, that was always the hardest thing, because my goal was to get, the TV guys like to have the close up of the ball spinning in the air, because, against a dark midnight, a gray sky with snow swirling in the stadium lights, that's always a great visual of the ball spinning down and somebody grabbing it out of the darkness and rumbling over the tundra. But if you're a fan of the game and you know what the players are doing or trying to do while they're playing, you want to see everything that's happening. And when I would film these things, it was difficult to try to get everybody that's on the field into the camera view, because you don't want to just see if you're coaching, you don't want to tell you don't want to not have the players in the screen when you're trying to tell them what to do. So the NFL has a camera feed called All 22.
They do,
right? And that apparently that's an end zone. It's an end zone camera that shows essentially all 22 players and all the refs.
It's an end zone camera, and they also have a on the sidelines version.
Really, of all 22.
Mm-hmm.
And then what you get,
the sidelines version's a little different though, and every once in a while somebody's off screen because of sometimes plays can take up 50 yards or something like that. So
like a punt maybe.
Yeah. But for the most part, I believe, especially with coronavirus, the way we consume content has completely changed since March. I think the NFL is doing themselves a huge disservice of not providing this 22 see-all camera to fans at some type of price. We pay lots of money to do the NFL Sunday Ticket or the NFL Red Zone because we like to see touchdowns and people score. That's just what we do. But there are also fans of the game who like the strategy and the manipulation of defenses, or the way defenses manipulate offenses to do certain things. And the NFL is going to hurt themselves in the long run by not educating and not providing this educational platform to the younger audience when we have this opportunity to consume content the way we do now.
So those people who play Madden, I guess I assume there's got to be other games out there other than Madden, but that is essentially a 22 view, isn't it?
For the most part, give or take, yeah.
And so you can see everything that's happening on the field. So you'd be an advocate of the NFL offering a package where you could get your favorite game and you could watch it from the 22, one of the 22 cams. And so would you pay money for that?
I might. Right now I have my athletics subscription, and on Tuesday I read some people who give me the play from the All 22, and that works just about fine. So
I hear you. I got that, but so that's football. Right? But you've said that there's a couple things with the way what did you say? The way we absorb content or we receive
consume content. Yeah.
With baseball that you think is actually beneficial to how baseball is being viewed these days.
So baseball is a slower game. I love baseball, huge baseball fan. But with that, the game itself has, especially with technology, evolved to a point where we can kind of appreciate how talented these players are. When you're at a baseball game and you have Greg Maddux throwing a 12-6 curveball, you can't really see what that curveball looks like. But if you see it on television, you can see the curve that makes. You can see the way it dips right to left and slices across the batter's vision, and him having no idea how to hit the thing. At the game, you can't see that. Baseball exists and has the technology in its hand to be able to showcase this talent, showcase the manipulation, the ball placement of these athletes, specifically pitchers, the way catchers frame balls.
So now they do things. Okay, so there's the technology thing, and lately, baseball. It seems to me baseball is really in. I don't want to say it's in crisis mode because it's a little too strong. Because those people who love baseball, and I know a lot of us do, we still see the game as baseball. But in order to try to drive a bigger audience, there's a number of things that have come into being. Instant replay is one. We see the I don't know what you call it. I'd probably call it the strike zone box.
Yeah.
And you see where the ball lights up, where it hit where it hit or didn't hit the strike zone, and where the pitchers are throwing it. And you see the whole distribution concept of where the pitched balls are going. Is there something that you would? There are people that are talking about having electronic umpires. That it's just a machine that tells that it beeps once for strike and twice for ball or whatever it is. Is there something that you think either should be included that isn't, something isn't that is included that shouldn't be? If you were commissioning, what would you push it?
I do a lot of things if I was commissioning. I would mic up the players and provide more opportunities to see their personalities, especially the way they interact with each other on the field. You might have to bleep out about half of what they say, but it's sports, so what do we expect? Additionally, I think MLB broadcasts, especially in the playoffs, do a very good job of highlighting and pointing out shifts in defensive alignment, why they're doing the shift, and then they pull up the infographic of saying, hey, this guy hits the ball to this spot 87% of the time. This is why they're doing it. They have the math and the science behind it to be able to show these things and then why the defenses are reacting a specific way. You mentioned the robot umpires. I believe it was last summer in a AA game, they tested that out. The umpire was normally behind the mask. He had an earbud in that communicated to the robot machine, and then the robot machine would tell him if it was a ball or a strike, and then he would communicate that like he would in a normal game. The umpire said it was pretty natural. There was a little bit of a delay, and for the most part, the robot and him agreed. He said, there were a few calls that maybe I wouldn't have made, but they were all consistent, so I'm happy with that. So I think that would be interesting to see baseball go in that route, to take out kind of the human error of baseball. So that is something interesting, I think, to watch. I think the broadcast of baseball games, like if you could have, that mic up of players talking about, hey, this guy's pushed here 3 times in the past 2 games we played them. Maybe this is something we need to worry about. That communication from pitchers to catchers to the rest of the team, I think, is so unique and you don't always get in other sports.
Well, that's the thing you don't see, right? You don't, the players know, they're reading the signs from the catcher as well, and they know if the ball's going to be inside. It's more likely to pull it so they can shift, and the infielders are doing the same thing. I've heard some people say, and I think where I stand on this, but I'm going to ask you the question first. There are people that say that they should outlaw the shift, that it should be illegal to have more than 2 infielders on one side of the base or whatever. So there's some rules. So people have proposed rules for shift that make it illegal to shift defensive players to where the player is likely to hit the ball. I'll let you give your opinion first, and then I'll give mine. So what do you think?
If you can't hit into the massive hole, then maybe you should work on hitting into the massive hole. We have really good pitching instructors. We have the technology. We have the science behind this stuff to be able to manipulate batters and to be able to do that correctly. We have hitting coaches who have worked with batters in AA and AAA to be able to be like, hey, this launch angle, if you hit here and you work on your swing this way, you're going to be able to hit 40 home runs when you get to the majors. And that guy goes on and hits 40 home runs in the majors. If you can't hit into the massive hole on the right side of the infield, well, maybe on the off season, you should learn how to hit into the massive hole. Like it's, I don't know. It would be the same thing in hockey. If I wanted to play defense with only 4 guys and have a guy chill on the blue line, I should be allowed to do that. It's not very effective, But if he can get an opportunity to score a goal, I'm going to take that chance.
Right. And that's my thought as well. I think putting rules on the defense is kind of that violates a certain libertarianism in me, I think. And I, if you want to take the risk of putting all your guys on one side and leaving a big hole, well, you know what? Hit into the hole. I'm reminded of this story I heard about Michael Jordan one time complaining to the refs that the guys were that nobody could get him a pass because the defense was all over him, and the umpire just turned to him and said, sorry, man, get open, and I kind of think like, sorry, man, hit to the hole. I mean, there's a huge hole there, hit to the hole. So I'm not a big fan of putting rules on the defense. I think there's always some rules, like you can't be offsides, right? The catcher better be in the catcher's box when the pitch is thrown.
Yeah,
those kinds of things. And I think you need to have all the defenders probably in the field of play. I think those are legitimate. But other than that, I think if you want to take all your outfielders and put them right, put them in a little campfire around second base, it doesn't really matter to me. So
let's go camping.
All right, so are we getting close to what's our
We're
time?
running low on time here.
So low on time. So I'm
wrap it on up a little bit. I think I've discussed enough about my love for baseball and disdain for the way certain sports have transitioned in the broadcast era. But
so and some of those have shifted just because of television. Because of the fact that they are broadcast, they are now a different game. Yeah, that does bother me a little bit because then it makes it so much harder for. I look around and we used to play baseball, or we used to mimic baseball with 6 kids, no uniforms, and a frisbee for second base and that sort of thing. We didn't do a lot of it, and obviously it wasn't good enough to make a career out of it. But I do think that would be. I think rules that require the technology that the masses cannot employ is bad for the game. That's I railed on soccer a little bit last week, but I will give credit to soccer where credit is due, and the credit is anyone can have a reasonable facsimile of soccer, even with just a wad of rolled up socks. So it's that's a good thing, and I think if soccer ever gets to the point where they have to have technology in it, it will lose its universal appeal. So I think that's the big appeal to soccer, is anybody can play it anywhere in the world.
And, with soccer, I will say this: they have the magical. They actually stole this from rugby, and then they pretended it was their own thing that they implemented in the last World Cup. It was their video referee, and then the on-field official could go to their video referee saying, "Hey, was this kind of an egregious call or something like that?" They implemented it a lot with offsides call, if the guy is offsides or not. Originally, it existed in rugby as the television match official. With that, it's universally adored by rugby fans because it's another guy in the ref's ear saying, "Hey, I need you to look at this. I saw this. I know you mentioned something about it. Let's talk." It's very similar to what we see in the NFL when the umpire goes under the hood to review if the guy crossed the goal line or not. It's smart to do. Yep. It's good for the game. It's stolen from soccer, stole it from football and rugby. I will end with that.
All right, that's great. All right, everybody. Well, thanks for joining us for Bufnagle the podcast. Man, this time flies by when we eventually get around to recording. So remember, hit us up on Twitter. Send your email questions to bufnagle@bufnagle.com or legal@bufnagle.com in case Zach said anything that's going to get us sued. All right, and then other than that, Zach is. Oh, you know what? If you'd love to be mentioned on our great little show, give us a call. Send us a note. We are shills for dollars to help us cover the cost of putting this on the broadcast machine. So let us know, and we would gladly enter discussion. So, Zach, anything else?
I think that's it. We finally got to a topic and discussed it without completely disintegrating. So
we did all right. All right. Well, have a Bufnagle night, everybody, and we'll see you next week.
Sounds good. See ya.